Hello, friends. If you're curious about the movie The Quick and the Dead, 1995, you're in the perfect place. Don't forget to give this video a quick like, it really helps us out. And if you're new here, hit subscribe to stay updated on all the latest movie deep dives. Let's jump right in. The dust swirls in the air. A lone figure rides into town, her silhouette sharp against the dying sun. Her presence alone sends whispers through the streets, a warning to those who know what's coming. The Quick and the Dead is not just another Western. It's a stylish, gritty, and high-stakes game of vengeance, fueled by revenge, sharp shooting, and the kind of tension that keeps you at the edge of your seat. Released in 1995, this film is a modern Western with a razor-sharp twist. Directed by Sam Raimi, the same mind behind Evil Dead and Spider-Man, the movie blends classic Western tropes with a hyper-stylized, almost comic book-like energy that makes it stand out in the genre. With an all-star cast featuring Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman, Russell Crowe, and a young Leonardo DiCaprio, this isn't your typical slow-burn Western. This is fast, brutal, and dripping with attitude. At the heart of the film is Ellen, a mysterious and deadly gunslinger played by Sharon Stone. She rides into a town ruled by fear, where the iron grip of the ruthless John Herod, Gene Hackman, keeps everyone in check. Herod isn't just a tyrant. He's a sadist, a man who thrives on power and ensures his control through an annual quick-draw tournament where only the fastest, most lethal gunslingers survive. But Ellen isn't here for sport. She has a reason, a purpose, a vendetta. She enters the tournament, drawing attention, doubt, and curiosity. No one believes she stands a chance. Not in a game designed for ruthless killers, not against men who have lived and died by the gun. Among the competitors is Court, Russell Crowe, a former outlaw turned preacher, a man who has sworn never to touch a gun again but is forced into the contest against his will. There's also Kid, Leonardo DiCaprio, a cocky, quick-witted young gunslinger looking for recognition, and something more. With every round of the tournament, the stakes rise. The duels are not just about survival. They are about proving something, about confronting past sins, about justice and revenge clashing at high noon. The film's tension is built on suspense and style. Every duel is shot with extreme close-ups of eyes, twitching fingers, the tightening of a trigger. The camera zooms, spins, distorts perspectives, making every gunfight feel like a dramatic dance of fate. As the tournament progresses, secrets unravel. Ellen is not just another gunslinger. She has a past intertwined with Herod, a past drenched in blood and loss. Her arrival is not by chance. She has come for one thing, revenge. But getting to Herod isn't easy. He is not just the town's ruler. He is its god, controlling life and death with a single command. To reach him, Ellen must survive duel after duel, facing opponents as dangerous as the man she's after. And then, the film delivers its knockout moments, betrayals, unexpected alliances, and duels that end in ways no one expects. As the final showdown approaches, Ellen's true motives come to light, and Herod realizes that this is not just another gunfight. This is fate catching up with him. Will she get her revenge? Will the town finally break free from Herod's reign? Or will the past, once again, claim the future in a flurry of bullets? With its bold cinematography, intense performances, and a Western atmosphere dripping with tension, The Quick and the Dead delivers a thrilling ride that blends old-school gunslinging with Sam Raimi's signature visual flair. If you haven't seen this film, prepare for a Western unlike any other. And if you have, you know what's coming. The gunfire, the duels, the revenge, and the moment when the past and present collide in the most spectacular way. And that final showdown? It's one for the history books. The town of redemption isn't a place where people come to make a fresh start. It's a place where the past lingers like dust in the air, where every man walks with one hand near his gun, and where the law belongs to the one who can draw the fastest. It is a town ruled by death, and death wears the face of John Herod. The moment Ellen rides into town, she feels it, the weight of fear pressing down on everything, the silent stares of townsfolk too afraid to speak. She doesn't ask questions, doesn't need to. She already knows why she's here. Dressed in a long coat, holster strapped tight to her hip, she steps off her horse, her boots hitting the dirt with a sense of finality. At the center of the town is a wooden platform, large enough to be a stage, a place where life and death are decided by the turn of a second. The tournament. The moment she sees it, she knows she's in the right place. This is where she will find him. Herod's name is whispered through every saloon and alleyway. A man who took this town with blood and never let go. He runs the place like a king, controlling everything, including the annual quick-draw competition. Anyone can enter, but only one walks away. The prize? Power, money, survival. But for Ellen, none of that matters. She's here for something else. She watches from the shadows as the sign-ups begin. A parade of killers, bounty hunters, and reckless fools steps forward, each one believing they have what it takes to be the fastest. Among them, she notices two men who stand out. Court, the preacher. At first glance, he doesn't belong here. His hands look like they once knew violence but have since been washed clean of it. He is a man trying to escape the past, but the past refuses to let go. Herod forces him into the competition, reminding him that he owes his life to him, that he will fight or he will die. Then there's the kid, young, brash, full of fire. He has something to prove. He talks big, boasts that he's the fastest, that he's the one to beat. But behind the confidence, there's something else, a desperate need to be recognized. Ellen doesn't sign up right away. She waits, watches, measures the men around her. She is not here to make mistakes. She is here for one man, and one man only. Herod makes his grand entrance, stepping onto the wooden stage like a king surveying his kingdom. The air changes when he speaks. The town listens, not out of respect, but out of fear. He lays out the rules. Single elimination. 1 duel a day. No second chances. Then he sees Ellen. And for the first time, something shifts. There's something familiar in the way she stands, in the way she looks at him. Not with fear, but with something else. Something colder. He doesn't recognize her yet, but he knows a killer when he sees one. The first round of the tournament begins. Dust rises, fingers twitch, bullets fly. The kid is up first. Cocky, grinning, playing to the crowd. But when the gun is in his hand, all the playfulness vanishes. He is fast, faster than anyone expects. His opponent barely gets a chance to fire before the kid's bullet finds its mark. The crowd roars, but Herod watches with something close to amusement. He knows the kid is talented. He also knows talent alone isn't enough to win this game. Ellen steps forward next. This is her moment. She faces a man twice her size, a bounty hunter with a reputation, someone who laughs at the idea of dueling a woman. His laughter doesn't last long. The shot is clean. Precise. The man hits the ground, shock in his eyes. He never saw it coming. He knows the kid is talented. He also knows talent alone isn't enough to win this game. Ellen steps forward next. This is her moment. She faces a man twice her size, a bounty hunter with a reputation, someone who laughs at the idea of dueling a woman. His laughter doesn't last long. The shot is clean. Precise. The man hits the ground, shock in his eyes. He never saw it coming. The town takes notice. She is not just another challenger. She is something else. That night, as the fires burn low in the saloon, Herod finally approaches her. "You got a name?" he asks. She doesn't give it. "You got a reason for being here?" She doesn't answer. But the way she looks at him, like she's looking through him, like she's seeing something from another life, it unsettles him. The next day, the duels continue. Each one is brutal, quick, unforgiving. The numbers dwindle. The weaker fighters are taken out one by one. Court refuses to fight. He is a man of faith now, a man who laid down his weapons long ago. But Herod forces his hand. He pairs him against a man who won't hesitate, who will kill without blinking. The gun is placed in Court's hands. He doesn't want it. But he has no choice. The duel is over in seconds. Court wins, but something inside him dies again. Herod watches with a knowing smirk. "Welcome back," he says. The tournament goes on, and with each round, Ellen inches closer to what she came for. But as she does, memories start to surface. Flashes of the past. A child screams. A man's laughter. A gunshot that changed everything. And then she remembers. Not just why she came, but what she must do. She is not just here to win. She is here to end it. And to do that, she must face the man who started it all. John Herod. The sun beats down on the dusty streets of Redemption, where the echoes of gunfire still linger in the air. The tournament is reaching its final rounds, and the stakes have never been higher. The list of competitors has dwindled. The weak have fallen, the slow have perished, and now only the most dangerous remain. Ellen stands at the edge of town, watching the preparations for the next round. Her hands, steady as ever, rest near her revolver, but something inside her is starting to unravel. Memories she had long buried are pushing their way to the surface, clawing at her resolve. She has come this far, but now she must decide. Does she have the will to finish what she started? The tournament has taken its toll on everyone. The kid, once cocky and full of life, now carries a shadow of doubt in his eyes. He knows that every duel from this point forward is deadlier than the last. He has proven himself, but the real test is yet to come. Court, the reluctant gunslinger, stands with his head bowed. He has fought and won, but each victory chips away at the man he is trying to be. The town whispers about his past, the man he used to be, the outlaw who rode with Herod. But Court doesn't want to be that man anymore. He has sworn never to kill again, yet fate keeps forcing his hand. And then there is Herod. Unshaken, unchallenged, untouchable. He watches from his balcony, sipping his drink, knowing that no matter who falls next, he will always be at the top. Because that is the way it has always been. Because no one is faster than him. Because no one has ever beaten him. The next round begins. The matchups are set. Ellen faces another challenger, another hired gun looking for glory. But this duel is different. As she stands across from him, the world slows. She remembers the first time she fired a gun. She remembers the weight of the revolver in her small hands, the cold grip pressing against her palm. She remembers the sound of a shot ringing out, a shot she didn't mean to fire. A shot that took someone she loved. The past and present collide. She blinks, the memory fades, and the shot is fired. Her opponent falls. Another step closer. The kid steps into the ring next. This is his moment, his chance to prove that he is more than just a reckless boy playing at being a man. His opponent is ruthless, but the kid is faster. The shot rings out, and his opponent crumbles. The kid's grin returns, but just for a second. Because now he knows what comes next. The final four. Court. The kid. Ellen. Herod. A silence falls over Redemption. Everyone knows what's coming. The first match is set. The kid versus Herod. The young gunslinger swallows hard, but he doesn't back down. This is what he wanted, what he's been waiting for. The chance to prove himself to the man who has cast a shadow over his entire life. But Herod doesn't see him as a challenge. He doesn't even see him as a threat. They step into the street. The air is thick with dust and tension. The countdown begins. 3, 2, 1. The shots ring out. And the kid is the one who falls. He stumbles backward, disbelief in his eyes. Blood stains his shirt. He gasps, trying to hold himself together, trying to will himself to stand. But it's too late. Herod barely even looks at him. The kid reaches out, looking for someone, anyone. His father, his legacy, the respect he wanted. None of it matters now. As he collapses to the ground, his final breath is met with silence. The crowd turns away. No one mourns in redemption. No one but Ellen. She clenches her fists. Another life lost to Herod. Another name added to the long list of those he has buried. Now it's Court's turn. He stands across from Ellen, the only two left. But they both know what this really means. They are not enemies. They are not rivals. They are just pieces being moved in Herod's game. Ellen shakes her head. I won't fight you. Court nods. He won't fight her either. Herod steps forward. He smiles. Then one of you dies for nothing. He tosses a gun at Court's feet. The preacher looks down at it, the weight of his past pulling at him. Ellen looks at him, and for the first time, she sees something else in his eyes. Not fear. Not regret. Acceptance. The duel begins. The shot rings out. Court falls. Ellen stares, frozen. She doesn't even hear the crowd. She doesn't even see Herod walking toward her. She only sees Court, lying still in the dirt. Herod leans in, his voice low. I suppose that means it's just you and me now. She finally looks up at him, and there it is, the thing he's been trying to place, the thing he's been trying to remember. The past. She isn't just another challenger. She isn't just another fool with a gun. He knows her. And suddenly, he understands why she's here. But it's too late. The final duel is set. Ellen versus Herod. The sun begins to set. The town gathers. This is the moment everyone has been waiting for. But this isn't a normal duel. This is revenge. The countdown begins. 3, 2, 1. The ground shakes. A blast erupts behind them. Herod turns just in time to see his empire collapsing. The town, the one he built, the one he ruled, is burning. Ellen doesn't hesitate. She fires. The shot rips through Herod, his body jerking backward, his reign ending in a single second. He falls. Not as a king, not as a ruler, but as just another man. The town breathes. For the first time in years, it breathes. Ellen watches as the flames rise, consuming everything Herod built. And then she turns. She walks away. No words. No celebration. Just the sound of her boots against the dirt. She came for one thing. And now it's done. Ellen rides into redemption with the weight of the past heavy on her shoulders. She doesn't speak much, doesn't need to. Her presence alone is enough to send ripples through the town, enough to make John Herod take notice. She isn't here for money, for fame, or for sport. She is here for something far more personal, something that has haunted her for years. Her past is a shadow that follows her every step. She is not the kind of gunslinger who enjoys the fight. She is not a reckless outlaw looking for glory. She is a woman with a purpose, and she won't stop until she sees it through. The more time she spends in the town, the more her walls begin to crack. Flashes of memory creep in, the sound of a gunshot, the feeling of helplessness, the pain of loss. Every duel brings her closer to the truth, to the moment when she must finally face what she has been running from. But Ellen is not just a victim of the past. She is a survivor. She moves with precision, thinks before she acts. She studies her opponents, never underestimating them, never assuming she has the upper hand. Her strategy is not about speed alone. It is about control. And that control is the only thing that keeps her from breaking. She watches the others carefully. Court, the preacher, the man who once lived by the gun but now refuses to touch it. The kid, the reckless dreamer, desperate to prove himself. And Herod, the man who took everything from her, the man who doesn't even remember her face. Each of them serves as a reflection of what she could become. Court is a man who has tried to walk away from violence. He once rode with Herod, once lived by the same ruthless code. But something changed him. Now, he refuses to kill. But in redemption, there is no room for men like him. Herod forces him into the tournament, forces him to pick up the gun again. And every time he pulls the trigger, another piece of the man he was trying to be is lost. Ellen sees this struggle in him, and in a way, she understands it. She, too, has tried to forget the past. She, too, has tried to silence the ghosts. But the difference between them is that Court is still trying to resist. Ellen knows that resistance is no longer an option. And then there is the kid, young, arrogant, full of fire. He believes he is destined for greatness. He walks with a confidence that is not earned but assumed. He is fast, maybe faster than anyone else in town. But speed alone is not enough. Experience, wisdom, strategy, these are the things that separate the survivors from the dead. Ellen watches him closely, sees the way he seeks Herod's approval, the way he wants so badly to be recognized. She knows that he is fighting for something deeper than just victory. And when he falls, she is the only one who truly mourns. His death is a warning, a reminder that in this town, in this game, skill is not enough. The past always catches up. But the one figure that towers over them all is Herod. To the town, he is a king. To Ellen, he is a monster. He walks through redemption like he owns it because he does. Every life, every duel, every gunshot fired in his tournament is under his control. He is more than just a man. He is a symbol of everything that has kept this town in chains. But Herod does not fear Ellen. He underestimates her. He sees her as just another challenger, just another fool looking to take what is his. Even when he senses something familiar about her, he does not truly remember. And that is what makes him dangerous. Because Ellen remembers everything. Herod is not just a villain. He is the weight of history, the embodiment of every cruel, violent truth about the West. He does not just kill. He thrives on the power of knowing he can take life at will. But for all his confidence, for all his control, there is one thing he does not expect: revenge. He has ruled redemption for so long that he believes he is untouchable. But the past does not forget. And Ellen is not here to fight for power. She is here to bring everything crashing down. When the final duel arrives, it is not just a fight between two gunslingers. It is the past and the present colliding. It is justice and revenge standing face to face. And when Ellen pulls the trigger, it is not just Herod that falls. It is the old world, the old ways, the old power that kept this town enslaved. Ellen's story is not about victory. It is about closure. It is about ending something that should have ended long ago. She does not stay in redemption. She does not claim the throne Herod left behind. She does not need to. Because for the first time in years, she is free. The making of The Quick and the Dead was just as unpredictable, intense, and thrilling as the film itself. It was a production filled with unexpected twists, last-minute decisions, and some of the most unique behind-the-scenes stories Hollywood has ever seen. From casting surprises to on-set accidents, every moment of the film's creation carried the same tension and unpredictability that made its duels so memorable. The film had all the makings of a classic Western: a ruthless villain, a mysterious gunslinger, a town trapped in fear. But what set it apart was its director, Sam Raimi, a filmmaker known for his wild visual style and love for pushing boundaries. Raimi didn't just want to make another Western. He wanted to reinvent the genre, to inject it with something bold, something operatic, something that felt like a high-stakes showdown in a comic book brought to life. And that's exactly what he did. Sharon Stone wasn't just the star. She was the powerhouse behind the film. Most people assume that the lead actress in a film is simply there to perform, but Sharon Stone wasn't just the star of The Quick and the Dead. She was its driving force. When she first got the script, she saw something in it that no one else did. Westerns had always been dominated by men. Gunslingers, outlaws, bounty hunters, all played by tough, hardened male actors. But here was a story that put a woman at the center of it all, a woman just as deadly and dangerous as any cowboy before her. And she wasn't going to let that opportunity slip away. Stone loved the script so much that she not only took on the lead role, she became one of the film's producers. That meant she had a say in everything. The casting, the creative decisions, even the budget. She fought for this film to be made the way she believed it should be. But the biggest surprise? She personally chose Russell Crowe for his role as Court. At the time, Crowe was not yet a household name. He was gaining recognition in Australia but had not broken through in Hollywood. "I had to fight for him," Stone later said. "The studio didn't want him. They said, 'Who is this guy?' But I knew he had something special." And she wasn't wrong. Crowe's performance as the reluctant preacher turned gunslinger became one of the standout elements of the film. Leonardo DiCaprio's role was secured in the most unexpected way. Before Titanic, before The Wolf of Wall Street, before Leonardo DiCaprio became one of the most sought-after actors in Hollywood, he was just a young, ambitious actor looking for the right roles. When the role of the kid came up, DiCaprio wanted it. Badly. He auditioned, and his energy, his cocky charm, his youthful arrogance, everything about him fit the character perfectly. But there was one problem. The studio didn't want to pay for him. They believed that casting an unknown actor in such a pivotal role was too risky. That's when Sharon Stone stepped in, again. They believed that casting an unknown actor in such a pivotal role was too risky. That's when Sharon Stone stepped in, again. "I said, I'm paying for him. That's my money." She personally covered DiCaprio's salary just to have him in the film. She believed in him that much. Looking back, it was one of the best decisions she ever made. DiCaprio's performance as the cocky, tragic young gunslinger gave the film an emotional core it wouldn't have had otherwise. And in just a few short years, he would go on to become one of the biggest stars in the world. The filming conditions were as harsh as the Old West itself. Filming a Western is never easy. The dust, the heat, the long days under the relentless sun, everything about it is physically demanding. And The Quick and the Dead was no exception. The film was shot in Arizona, where the heat was brutal and the conditions were rough. The actors spent hours outside, sweating under their costumes, dust in their eyes, exhaustion setting in. But the hardest part? The duels. Each showdown in the film was designed to be its own unique spectacle. Sam Raimi wanted every duel to have its own style, its own personality. The way the camera moved, the way the bullets hit, the way the sun gleamed off the revolvers, it was all meticulously planned. But executing it wasn't easy. The actors had to get their timing perfect, their movements precise. And then there was the gunfire itself. To make the film feel as real as possible, Raimi insisted on practical effects wherever he could. The guns weren't loaded with real bullets, of course, but the squibs, the small explosive charges that simulated bullet hits, were very real. This led to one of the strangest behind-the-scenes accidents. During one duel, a squib went off too early, causing the dust to explode into the actor's face before he had even pulled the trigger. The moment was so shocking that Raimi ended up keeping the take in the final cut. It was just too real, too raw, to redo. Sam Raimi's signature camera tricks almost derailed the film. If there's one thing Sam Raimi is known for, it's his wild, energetic camera work. He made his mark with the Evil Dead films, using whip-fast zooms, extreme close-ups, and dynamic camera angles to create a unique, almost comic book-like energy. And he brought that same style to The Quick and the Dead. But not everyone was thrilled about it. At one point, Raimi wanted to use his signature crash zoom effect, a fast zoom-in on a character's eyes, followed by a sudden zoom-out. Some of the producers were skeptical. "This is a Western," they argued, "not a horror movie." But Raimi was determined. He filmed the duels his way, Fast zooms, spinning cameras, exaggerated bullet impacts. And in the end, it became one of the most visually unique westerns ever made. The most surprising fact? The film was almost forgotten. Despite its star-studded cast, its visionary director, and its stylish execution, The Quick and the Dead wasn't a massive success when it first hit theaters. The film performed modestly at the box office, earning just enough to break even. Critics were divided. Some loved its bold style, its fearless lead, its inventive cinematography. Others dismissed it as too over-the-top, too different from the classic westerns they were used to. But over time, something changed. The film started to gain a cult following. People began to see what made it special: the way it blended classic Western themes with modern filmmaking techniques, the way it gave its female lead true power, the way it dared to be different. And today, it stands as one of the most underrated Westerns of its time. A film that broke rules, challenged expectations, and left its mark. And in the end, just like the best gunslingers, it refused to be forgotten. The dust settles over the town of redemption, but the story of The Quick and the Dead lingers long after the final gunshot. This is not just a Western, it is a reinvention of the genre, a film that challenges tradition while embracing its roots. At first glance, it may seem like a stylish action flick, a series of dramatic shootouts strung together by a revenge plot. But beneath the surface, there is something deeper, something more powerful, a commentary on justice, power, survival, and redemption. What sets this film apart is the way it uses familiar Western tropes only to subvert them. The lone gunslinger, the tyrannical ruler, the desperate townsfolk, the ritual of the duel, all are present, yet none play out the way they traditionally would. The first major moment that signals this shift comes the moment Ellen steps into town. In most classic Westerns, the mysterious stranger who rides into town seeking justice is a man. Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name is the archetype, the brooding, silent gunfighter whose past is unknown and whose future is uncertain. But here, that role belongs to a woman. Ellen isn't just a woman placed into a Western setting. She is fully in control, fully dangerous, fully capable. She doesn't need to prove herself. From the moment she walks into redemption, she carries herself like someone who belongs there, like someone who has already made up her mind about what must be done. Her introduction is crucial because it tells the audience right away, this is not going to be a typical Western. The tournament as a stage for justice and corruption. The heart of the film's conflict is Herod's tournament. On the surface, it is nothing more than a brutal contest, a way for men to prove their worth, a sport of life and death. But the deeper truth is that it is a display of power, a ritual that ensures Herod's control over the town. The tournament exists for one reason: to remind everyone that Herod is the fastest, the deadliest, the one no one can defeat. This is what makes the film's structure so brilliant. Each duel is not just about winning or losing, it is about challenging the very system that keeps redemption under Herod's rule. The kid steps into the contest to prove himself. He is young, arrogant, hungry for recognition. But as the film progresses, his journey becomes one of realization, recognizing that skill alone is not enough, that power is not always won through a gun. His tragic death at the hands of Herod is the film's harshest lesson. Some battles cannot be won through talent alone. Court, the preacher, does not want to fight. He has left violence behind, but Herod forces his hand. Every time he is made to pick up a gun, it is a reminder that true escape from the past is never easy. His survival in the tournament is not just about his skill, it is about Herod's cruelty, his desire to break him. And then there is Ellen. Every duel she wins is another step closer to justice. She isn't in it for the money, for the pride, she is in it for vengeance. But even she doesn't realize, at first, that this tournament is not just about killing Herod, it is about dismantling everything he has built. The gunfight that changed everything. One of the film's most powerful moments comes when Ellen and Court are forced to face each other. This duel is different from the rest. Every other fight in the film has been about skill, about proving something. But this one is about manipulation. Herod forces them into it because he knows they won't want to fight. This is not a contest between enemies, it is a test of loyalty, a cruel reminder that he controls everything. Court refuses. Ellen hesitates. And then, Herod reminds them that in his town, hesitation means death. Ellen makes a choice. She fires. Filming in the Arizona heat was brutal. Shooting a Western means dealing with harsh conditions. Long days under the sun, dust everywhere, heat so intense that even the strongest actors start to feel it. The production was filmed in Arizona, where the desert became both a perfect backdrop and a grueling challenge. Actors spent hours outside, covered in dust, sweating through their costumes, dealing with the kind of exhaustion that makes even the toughest scenes feel twice as hard. And then there was the issue of the practical effects. The gunfights were all designed to be done with real pyrotechnics. No digital explosions, no CGI trickery. This meant carefully timed squibs, small explosive devices used to simulate gunshot wounds, and real, practical set destruction. But sometimes, things didn't go as planned. During one scene, a squib went off too early, sending a cloud of dust into an actor's face before he had even fired his shot. The moment was so unexpected, so real, that Raimi kept the take in the final cut. The surprise ending that almost didn't happen. The final showdown between Ellen and Herod is one of the most memorable moments in the film. The town burning, the tension thick, the two gunfighters standing face to face, ready to settle everything in one final draw. But what makes it even better? The twist. Just as the duel is about to begin, a massive explosion destroys Herod's empire, catching him off guard, giving Ellen the opening she needs. That explosion? It almost wasn't in the script. Raimi, known for his love of dramatic moments, wanted something bigger, something unexpected. So, late into production, the idea was born, to have Ellen use the dynamite she had planted earlier to take out Herod's world in a single moment. It changed everything. The final duel wasn't just about speed anymore. It was about Ellen outsmarting Herod, about her turning his own game against him. The film that refused to be forgotten. When The Quick and the Dead was released, it didn't set the box office on fire. The Western genre was still struggling to find its place in modern cinema, and the film's mix of stylized action and classic Western themes confused some critics. But over time, the film's reputation grew. People began to see what made it special: its bold female lead, its inventive cinematography, its electric gunfights. Today, it stands as one of the most unique Westerns ever made, a film that broke rules, challenged expectations, and proved that sometimes the best stories are the ones that refuse to be forgotten. The town of redemption is more than just a backdrop in The Quick and the Dead. It is a character in itself, breathing, changing, and holding secrets just like the people who walk its dust-covered streets. From the moment Ellen rides into town, the setting tells us everything we need to know. This is not a place of law and order. This is a place where power is measured by the speed of a draw and the precision of a bullet. The buildings are old, worn down by time and violence. The saloon doors creak as strangers enter, the dusty windows hide desperate faces, and the wooden planks of the street groan under the weight of boots that have walked too many deadly paths. The air feels thick, heavy with the tension of unspoken rules. In Redemption, survival is not a right, it is earned, one duel at a time. Everything about the town is designed to reinforce one undeniable truth: Herod owns this place. He doesn't just rule the people, he rules the very foundation of the town itself. His presence is felt in the streets, in the way the townsfolk lower their heads when he walks by, in the way even the wind seems to stop when he speaks. And at the center of it all stands the dueling arena. It is not a grand coliseum, nor is it an official stage. It is a simple wooden platform, worn and stained, a place where lives are decided with a single pull of a trigger. It is not just the heart of the tournament, it is the altar upon which Herod's dominance is reaffirmed. The setting of Redemption plays with light and shadow to create a world that feels both vast and claustrophobic. The streets are wide, open, yet they feel like a trap. There is nowhere to hide, nowhere to escape once a duel begins. The openness is deceptive. It does not bring freedom, only the inevitability of death cinematography, the duel as an art form. Sam Raimi does not film the quick and the dead like a traditional Western. He doesn't just capture shootouts, he turns them into cinematic spectacles, each one unique, each one visually striking. The duels are not just about speed, but about anticipation. Before every gunfight, the camera lingers, creating a slow, agonizing build-up. Asterisk close-ups of fingers twitching near holsters. Asterisk sweat dripping down foreheads. Asterisk eyes narrowing, calculating. This is where Raimi's signature style truly takes over. His use of extreme close-ups, of eyes, hands, guns, adds intensity, forcing the audience into the minds of the duelists. Every tiny movement is amplified, every moment stretched until the tension is unbearable. And then, the explosion of action. The moment the trigger is pulled, Raimi unleashes a frenzy of visual tricks. Asterisk crash zooms that snap the camera from wide shots to extreme close-ups. Asterisk high-speed tracking shots that follow bullets mid-flight. Asterisk over-exaggerated impacts that send bodies flying. One of the most unforgettable shots in the film happens when a bullet is fired straight through a man's head, and the camera follows it, showing the hole in real time. It is a shot that breaks the rules of realism, yet feels right at home in a film that is not trying to be just another Western, it is trying to be a Western legend. But the duels are not the only moments that benefit from the cinematography. The entire town of Redemption is filmed in a way that makes it feel surreal, almost mythical. Light and shadow, the visual language of power. Redemption is not just a place of death, it is a place of judgment. Light and shadow are used to create a world where no one is truly safe, where every corner holds danger. During the day, the sun is harsh, almost blinding. The high noon lighting turns every duel into a spectacle, casting long shadows that stretch across the dirt, making the gunfighters look larger than life. But at night, darkness creeps in, swallowing everything except for the faint glow of lanterns and candlelight. The saloon becomes a cave of secrets, a place where whispers of rebellion brew, where fear and desperation lurk in every corner. Herod is always positioned in the light, not because he is a hero, but because he wants to be seen. He thrives on dominance, on being the center of attention. The light frames him, isolates him, making him look untouchable. Ellen, on the other hand, is often caught between light and shadow. She is neither fully in the darkness nor fully in the sun. She exists in the space between, always moving, always shifting, never letting herself be completely exposed. This is not a contest between enemies, it is a test of loyalty, a cruel reminder that he controls everything. Court refuses. Ellen hesitates. And then, Herod reminds them that in his town, hesitation means death. Ellen makes a choice. She fires. The moment is brutal, shocking, and yet deeply revealing. For the first time, Ellen is forced to consider what she is willing to do, how far she is willing to go. This moment is about survival, but it is also about sacrifice. And then, Court falls. Or so it seems. The reveal that Ellen had planned for him to survive, that she had used her skill to fake his death, is the first true victory against Herod. It is the first moment when someone outsmarts him, when his perfect control begins to crack. The showdown that redefined the Western hero. The final duel between Ellen and Herod is not just a confrontation between two characters. It is a battle between past and present, power and justice, oppression and revenge. Herod doesn't recognize Ellen for who she is until it's too late. This is the moment that the film has been building toward. Everything about him, the way he walks, the way he speaks, the way he fights, has been built on the belief that he is untouchable. But Ellen is not just another challenger. She is the consequence of his past sins, returning to take back what was stolen. Her victory is not just about killing Herod. It is about setting redemption free. And it is about setting herself free. When she walks away at the end, she does not stay to rule, does not take the town for herself. She does not need to. Her victory is enough. The film's lasting impact. At the time of its release, The Quick and the Dead was misunderstood by many critics. Some saw it as too flashy, too stylized, too different from the traditional Western. Others dismissed it as a simple revenge flick, failing to see the deeper themes running through it. But over time, the film has earned the respect it always deserved. It is now recognized as one of the first Westerns to fully embrace a female lead without making her a love interest or a sidekick. It introduced a new kind of visual storytelling to the genre, one that used dramatic angles, extreme close-ups, and high-speed editing to make every gunfight feel larger than life. And it redefined what it meant to be a Western hero. Ellen is not a gunslinger looking for glory. She is not here to prove herself to anyone. She is here to make things right, to finish something that should have been finished long ago. And that is why, years later, her story still resonates. Because justice is not about power. It is about doing what must be done, even when the world tells you it cannot be done. And in the end, that is what makes her truly legendary. The making of The Quick and the Dead was as wild, unpredictable, and thrilling as the film itself. From Sharon Stone's unshakable determination to bring the story to life to Sam Raimi's inventive camera work that turned gunfights into operatic showdowns, every part of this production was a high-stakes gamble. Western films were no longer dominating Hollywood in the 1990s. The genre had faded, replaced by action-packed blockbusters and crime dramas. But The Quick and the Dead wasn't trying to be a relic of the past. It was trying to reinvent the Western with a new kind of energy, one that mixed the grit of classic showdowns with the flair of modern filmmaking. From the casting process to the unpredictable conditions of shooting in the desert, the film's journey to the screen was anything but easy. But just like its lead character, the film refused to back down. Sharon Stone's unstoppable passion for the film. When Sharon Stone first read the script for The Quick and the Dead, she knew this was a story that had to be told. The idea of a female gunslinger leading a Western wasn't just rare, it was almost unheard of. At the time, Hollywood didn't believe Westerns with female leads could work. Studios wanted to play it safe, sticking to the tried-and-true formula of men leading the genre. But Stone was at the height of her career, and she wasn't about to let this film slip through the cracks. She took matters into her own hands. Not only did she agree to star in the film, she also came on as a producer, putting her own money into the project to make sure it got made. This meant she had a say in everything. She wasn't just an actress playing a role. She was building the film from the ground up. The battle to cast Russell Crowe. Before Gladiator, before he became a Hollywood legend, Russell Crowe was just an Australian actor looking for his big break. When Stone saw his work, she knew he was the perfect choice to play Court, the tortured preacher forced to pick up a gun again. But the studio wasn't convinced. They didn't want an unknown actor in such a big role. Stone fought for him. She argued, she insisted, she refused to back down. "I had to pay for him," Stone later revealed. The studio said, "We don't want him," and I said, "I'm paying his salary." And that's exactly what she did. She personally covered Crowe's paycheck to make sure he got the role. Looking back, it was a career-defining moment for Crowe, one that helped launch him into international stardom. Leonardo DiCaprio almost didn't make the cut. At the time, Leonardo DiCaprio was still an up-and-coming actor, not yet the megastar he would become. He had already shown promise in smaller films, but he wasn't the kind of name that would sell a Western. DiCaprio auditioned for the role of the kid, bringing the perfect mix of cockiness and vulnerability to the part. Stone saw something special in him. She knew he was the right fit. But once again, the studio refused. They didn't want to pay for him. So, once again, Sharon Stone pulled out her own money. "I said, I'll pay for him. I'll pay his salary out of my own pocket," she recalled. And just like that, DiCaprio was cast in the film. It was one of his first major Hollywood roles, and his performance as the kid would go on to be one of the most memorable parts of the movie. Sam Raimi's signature style almost got him fired. Sam Raimi wasn't known for westerns. He was known for horror. His Evil Dead films had already made him a cult legend, and he had a unique style. Fast zooms, extreme close-ups, dramatic angles that made every scene feel larger than life. When he signed on to direct The Quick and the Dead, he didn't want to make a slow, traditional western. He wanted to make a western that felt alive, that had energy, that made every gunfight feel like a high-speed battle between legends. But the studio wasn't prepared for his vision. They didn't understand why he was using his signature crash zooms, fast zoom-ins on the eyes of duelists, or why he was tilting the camera in strange, exaggerated angles. At one point, there were rumors that the studio wanted to fire him. But Stone, once again the champion of the film, stood by Raimi. She believed in his vision, in his unique approach. And in the end, Raimi's style became one of the defining elements of the movie. The way he shot the duels, the way the camera moved, the way it turned every moment into an exaggerated, hyper-stylized showdown, became one of the most visually exciting parts of the film. It even messed with the practical effects, making explosions and gunfire look unplanned and chaotic. But perhaps the worst part? The unpredictable weather. There were several days when unexpected desert storms rolled in, forcing the crew to shut down production. At one point, a powerful windstorm nearly destroyed the Main Street set, ripping apart wooden structures and sending dust flying into every corner of the production. But the biggest disaster? One night, an entire section of the town set caught fire. The flames were eventually put out, but the damage forced the crew to rebuild parts of the town, delaying production by nearly a week. The accidental explosion that ended up in the final cut. Speaking of fire, one of the film's most iconic moments almost didn't happen. During the final showdown between Ellen and Herod, a massive explosion erupts in the background, signaling the destruction of his empire. But here's the thing, that explosion wasn't supposed to be that big. The special effects team had planned a controlled, small-scale blast. But due to a miscalculation in the amount of explosives used, the blast was nearly twice the size they intended. The crew panicked. The actors flinched. Even Raimi was momentarily stunned. But when he reviewed the footage, "That's perfect," he said. "We're keeping it." And that's exactly what they did. A film that shouldn't have worked, but did. Looking back, everything about The Quick and the Dead was a gamble. A western led by a female gunslinger? A director known for horror taking over the genre? A mix of dramatic close-ups, over-the-top action, and hyper-stylized duels? It shouldn't have worked. But it did. And the reason? Because everyone on that set believed in it. From Sharon Stone fighting for every decision, to Sam Raimi turning every scene into a spectacle, to the cast pushing through the brutal conditions, this film was made by people who loved what they were creating. And years later, that love is still visible in every frame. Because The Quick and the Dead wasn't just a movie. It was a battle. And just like Ellen in the final scene, it walked away victorious. The Town of Redemption is not just a name. It is a promise, a curse, and a prophecy all at once. Every footstep that lands on its dusty streets carries the weight of something unfinished. The people who live here do not thrive, they survive. They do not hope, they obey. And at the center of it all, standing like an immovable force, is John Herod, the lawless ruler who has bent the town to his will. But then Ellen arrives. She is not here for money or power. She is here for something deeper, something that cannot be measured in gold or blood. As she walks through redemption for the first time, the story's true themes begin to emerge. Justice, vengeance, the burden of the past, and the cost of redemption itself. The theme of redemption. Can the past ever be erased? Redemption. The word itself carries meaning beyond the town's wooden sign. It is the central theme of the story, but it is also the question that haunts every character. Ellen is seeking redemption for something in her past. But is it for herself? or for someone else. Court, the preacher, is a man who has tried to escape his past sins. But can a man who once lived by the gun ever truly leave it behind? Even the kid seeks redemption, not from sin, but from obscurity. He wants to prove himself, to show that he is more than just an afterthought in his father's world. And then there is Herod, who believes himself above redemption. To him, power is all that matters. The past cannot be erased, so why bother trying? The film constantly asks, is redemption possible? Or does the past always come calling? For Ellen, her journey is about reclaiming something that was stolen from her. She does not fight for glory. She does not fight for a title. She fights for justice, not just for herself, but for someone she lost. Herod took everything from her, and now she will take everything from him. But when the final bullet is fired, when Herod is no longer standing, does she feel redeemed? The answer is in her final act. She does not stay. She does not claim the town as her own. She rides away, because redemption is not a place. It is something far more elusive. The theme of vengeance, the cost of justice. If The Quick and the Dead is about redemption, it is also about revenge. Ellen's entire existence in this story is defined by the moment she lost her father. She was a child when it happened, too small to fight, too weak to stop it. Now, she is strong. Now, she is fast. But will vengeance truly heal what was broken? The film does not offer an easy answer. Revenge in westerns is usually portrayed as a necessity, a duty, even an honor. But in The Quick and the Dead, it is something darker, something heavier. For every bullet fired, Ellen inches closer to her goal, but further away from her soul. And in the end, when Herod is gone, does she feel peace? Or just emptiness? The film does not tell us. It only shows us her walking away. Because sometimes, vengeance does not bring closure, it only brings silence. The theme of power, the illusion of control. John Herod is not just a tyrant, he is the embodiment of unchecked power. He rules not because he is the best, but because he has made everyone believe he is untouchable. The tournament is not about skill, it is about control. Every duel is a reminder that Herod is king. And every opponent who falls is proof that no one can challenge him. Until Ellen arrives. She is the first person who does not fear him. And that is why she is dangerous. Herod believes he is above the rules, above fate, above consequence. But in the end, the very thing he built, the tournament, the town, the legend, becomes his downfall. Because power is an illusion. And when people stop believing in it, it crumbles. The symbolism of the gun, life, death, and fate. In The Quick and the Dead, the gun is more than just a weapon. It is a symbol of life and death, of fate and choice. For Court, the gun represents everything he is trying to escape. Every time he is forced to pick it up, he is being dragged back into the man he used to be. For the kid, the gun is a dream, a way to prove himself, to carve his name into history. But when he finally stands against Herod, he realizes that the gun is not enough. For Herod, the gun is his throne. As long as he is the fastest, as long as he can outdraw anyone, he is invincible. And for Ellen, the gun is justice. But justice does not always mean peace. When she finally pulls the trigger on Herod, the act is not triumphant, it is simply necessary. The gun does not bring her happiness. It only brings an ending. The symbolism of the setting, the town as a cage. Redemption is a prison. Not one with bars, but one made of fear. The people cannot leave, because they have nowhere to go. They cannot fight back, because they believe they will lose. Herod does not rule with walls. He rules with fear, with inevitability. But as the film progresses, the town begins to change. With every duel Ellen wins, the townsfolk watch. They start to see that Herod is not a god, he is just a man. Asterisk when the kid falls, they realize that even the strong can die. Asterisk when Court defies Herod, they see that fear is a choice. And when Ellen finally kills Herod, she does not take his place. Instead, she burns the town down. Because some places are too broken to fix. The final image, what it means to walk away. When the dust settles, when the flames have burned through the last remnants of Herod's reign, Ellen does not stay. It is only in the final act, when the past collides with the present, when the truth is finally revealed, that the light fully embraces her. The sound of redemption, music, gunfire, and silence. The soundscape of The Quick and the Dead is just as important as its visuals. The duels are not filled with music. There is no grand orchestral score swelling as the gunslingers take their stance. Instead, there is silence. And that silence is deafening. The tension builds with the creak of leather holsters, the click of a hammer being pulled back, the subtle inhale before the shot. And then, bang! Gunfire erupts, echoing through the empty streets. It is sudden, violent, final. Music only comes after the shot has been fired, after the body has hit the ground. And when it does, it is not triumphant, it is haunting. The score, composed by Alan Silvestri, blends traditional Western themes with something more sinister, more foreboding. It does not celebrate violence, it mourns it. Every note reminds us that this is not just a game. It is not just entertainment. Every duel is a death sentence, and every death leaves a scar. The final showdown, a town in flames. When Ellen finally stands against Herod, the town itself becomes part of the battle. The once quiet streets are now filled with fire and smoke. The walls of redemption shake, the wooden planks crack under the weight of destruction. The setting is no longer just a battleground, it is collapsing. Herod has built his empire on blood, and now it is burning around him. The duel is more than just a contest between two people, it is a fight for the soul of redemption. And when the final shot is fired, when Herod falls, the light of the flames casts long shadows over Ellen. But for the first time, those shadows do not trap her. She has won. Not just the duel, not just her revenge. She has won her freedom. A Western unlike any other. The Quick and the Dead is a film where every frame, every shadow, every camera movement tells its own story. Asterisk the way the sun casts its brutal, unforgiving glare during duels. Asterisk the way the camera tightens, trapping the audience in the tension. Asterisk the way silence is used as a weapon, making every shot count. It is not just a Western, it is a visual poem of vengeance, power, and survival. And in the end, as Ellen rides away, leaving redemption behind, the town still stands, but it is no longer the same. Because the past has been burned away. And in its place, something new has begun. The making of The Quick and the Dead was not just another Hollywood production. It was a battle, a test of endurance, and a stage for some of the most unexpected, thrilling, and even bizarre moments behind the scenes. From Sharon Stone's iron grip on creative control to Sam Raimi's relentless pursuit of cinematic perfection, every day on set was filled with challenges, laughter, tension, and the occasional explosion that wasn't entirely planned. This was a film that defied expectations at every turn. It was a Western unlike any other, and its production reflected that same energy, a mixture of chaos and genius that somehow came together to create something unforgettable. Sharon Stone, the unstoppable force behind the film. Most leading actors show up, say their lines, and move on to the next project. But Sharon Stone wasn't just the star, she was the engine that made the film happen. She had fallen in love with the script, believing that a Western led by a female gunslinger wasn't just a novelty, it was a necessary evolution of the genre. From the moment she signed on, she fought for creative decisions, making sure the film stayed true to its vision even when the studio pushed back. Asterisk she handpicked Russell Crowe, despite the fact that the studio had no interest in casting him. Asterisk she personally paid Leonardo DiCaprio's salary, refusing to let the studio's unwillingness to fund a young actor stop her from getting the best performance possible. She worked closely with director Sam Raimi, ensuring that the film had its own unique visual style rather than just being another cookie-cutter Western. Sharon was the producer in every sense of the word, Crow recalled. She wasn't just acting, she was fighting for this film every single day. And fight she did. There were moments when the studio executives wanted to interfere, to change things, to make the film more commercial. But Stone refused to let them take control. She had a vision, and nothing was going to stop her from seeing it through. Sam Raimi's insane directing style had the crew on edge. Sam Raimi is not a conventional filmmaker. He doesn't just direct scenes, he orchestrates them like a mad scientist, mixing chaos with precision to get exactly what he wants. From his Evil Dead days, he was known for his fast-moving cameras, his extreme close-ups, his wild, exaggerated action sequences. And on The Quick and the Dead, he brought that same energy. One of the biggest challenges for the crew was his obsession with capturing the duels in the most dramatic way possible. He used extreme close-ups on the characters' eyes before every duel, zooming in so fast that the camera operators struggled to keep up. He had the camera follow bullets in slow motion, forcing the crew to invent new ways to make it look convincing without relying on CGI. He shot scenes over and over again just to get the perfect, exaggerated reaction from the actors. At one point, he asked for a camera shot that started from the barrel of a gun and pulled back so quickly that it looked like the bullet had been fired directly at the audience. The crew thought it was impossible. Raimi made them do it anyway, and somehow they pulled it off. He made every duel feel like the most important moment in cinematic history, one crew member said. Every time someone fired a gun, it wasn't just a gunshot, it was a spectacle. The cast was put through brutal training, except for one person. To make the gunfights as realistic as possible, the cast was put through rigorous weapons training. Russell Crowe spent hours practicing his draws, learning how to fire his revolver with the same smooth precision as a real gunslinger. Sharon Stone worked with firearms experts to perfect her stance, her aim, her movements. She wanted Ellen to feel like a true force to be reckoned with. Even Leonardo DiCaprio, playing the cocky and untrained kid, worked hard to make his flashy, overconfident gunplay look authentic. But then there was Gene Hackman. Hackman, a veteran actor who had played cowboys, cops, and criminals, refused to do any extra training. "I've done enough westerns," he reportedly said. "I know how to shoot a gun." And honestly, he wasn't wrong. His performance as John Herod, the ruthless ruler of redemption, needed no extra preparation. His cold, controlled demeanor was terrifying enough on its own. And when he fired his gun, you believed he had done it 1,000 times before. The Arizona heat made filming a nightmare. Shooting in the middle of the Arizona desert might look incredible on screen, but for the cast and crew, it was absolute torture. Temperatures soared, actors sweated through their costumes, and even the film equipment struggled under the heat. One of the biggest issues? The dust. It got into the cameras, causing multiple breakdowns. It covered the actors, forcing makeup artists to constantly adjust their looks. The final image. What it means to walk away. When the dust settles, when the flames have burned through the last remnants of Herod's reign, Ellen does not stay. She does not stand as the new ruler. She does not rebuild the town. She simply walks away. Because The Quick and the Dead is not about revenge leading to peace. It is about revenge leading to the end of something, but not necessarily the beginning of something better. She leaves because her job is done. Because justice is not about ruling, it is about balance. And for the first time in years, she is free. A story that refuses to fade. Beneath the dust, the gunfire, the dramatic duels, The Quick and the Dead is a film about the weight of the past, the cost of revenge, and the illusion of power. It takes the classic Western and turns it into something more. A myth, a parable, a lesson in justice and consequence. And in the end, it does not give easy answers. Because the past never truly disappears. It only waits, buried beneath the dust, until someone comes looking for it again. The art of filmmaking is about illusion, about making the impossible feel real, about turning a story into something you can see, hear, and feel. The Quick and the Dead is not just a film. It's an experience, a Western that reinvents the genre with bold cinematography, unconventional editing, and a director who treats every duel like a high-stakes performance. When Sam Raimi stepped onto the set, he didn't just want to make another Western. He wanted to create a spectacle, a film that pulsed with energy, that made every bullet feel like a cannon blast and every moment before a gunfight feel like an eternity. And that's exactly what he did. From the way the camera moves to the way sound is used to build tension, everything about The Quick and the Dead is designed to make the viewer feel like they are standing right in the middle of the action, trapped in the dust, waiting for the next gunshot to decide someone's fate. Sam Raimi's signature camera work, a Western with a horror movie's energy. Most Westerns rely on wide, sweeping shots, slow, methodical cinematography that makes the world feel vast and empty, making every character seem small against the landscape. But Raimi? He does the opposite. He takes the grandeur of the Old West and fills it with intensity, with speed, with a kind of close-up tension that makes your heart pound before a single shot is fired. Extreme close-ups on eyes, fingers twitching over holsters, beads of sweat rolling down foreheads. Sudden crash zooms that whip the camera into the action, making the viewer feel like they've been sucked into the duel itself. Unconventional angles that distort perspective, making some characters look larger than life while others shrink into the dust. Every gunfight is filmed like a dance, a dramatic confrontation where time stretches and then snaps back into brutal, explosive violence. One of the film's most famous shots, the camera pulling backward through the bullet hole in a duelist's head, was pure Raimi. Over the top? Absolutely. But that's the point. He wanted every gunfight to feel like a punch to the gut, something visceral and unforgettable. Editing that turns gunfights into showdowns of fate. If the cinematography builds tension, the editing pushes it to the breaking point. Gunfights in The Quick and the Dead don't just happen. They build, moment by moment, cut by cut, until the explosion of gunfire feels like the only possible outcome. The editing rhythm is a pattern of control and release. 1. Slow, lingering shots before the duel. The camera holds on faces, hands, tiny movements that reveal fear or confidence. 2. Fast, jarring cuts the second a gun is drawn. The frame jumps between different angles, the face of the shooter, the reaction of the crowd, the impact of the bullet, before snapping back to stillness. 3. The aftermath lingers. There is no music, no celebration. Just silence, dust settling, and the weight of another death. This style makes every duel feel significant, even if the characters involved are minor. The gunfights don't feel like meaningless shootouts, they feel like judgment, like the universe deciding who lives and who dies. Sound and silence. The power of what you hear and don't hear. If the cinematography and editing create the tension, the sound design makes you feel it in your bones. In classic westerns, gunfights are often accompanied by music, a grand orchestral score that heightens the action. Not here. Raimi does something different. He lets silence do the work. Before every duel, there is no music. Just the sound of the wind, the creak of a leather holster, the shifting of boots on dry dirt. Gunshots don't just sound like gunshots, they sound like cannons. The echo of every shot is deafening, hammering home the finality of each kill. When a character dies, the world does not mourn. There is no sad music, no dramatic swell of emotion. Just silence. The absence of sound makes the moments of violence hit harder. It makes the viewer feel the weight of every pull of the trigger. And then, when music does come in, it is not triumphant, it is haunting. The score, composed by Alan Silvestri, blends traditional Western themes with something more ominous, more theatrical. It does not glorify the violence, it underscores the tragedy of it. practical effects that make every bullet count. Today, most action films rely on CGI for gunfights and explosions. But The Quick and the Dead was made before digital effects took over, meaning every bullet hit, every shattered window, every explosion was created with practical effects. Asterisk squibs, small explosive devices used to simulate bullet wounds, were rigged on actors and props, making the impact of every gunshot feel real. Asterisk buildings actually exploded when shot. No digital fire, no fake debris, just carefully timed pyrotechnics. Asterisk Herod's final moment, when Ellen takes him down as the town crumbles around him, was a combination of stunt work, controlled explosions, and old-school practical effects magic. Everything had to be carefully planned, because once an explosion was set off or a bullet hole was blown through a wall, there was no undoing it. This commitment to practical effects is one of the reasons the film still holds up today. It doesn't feel like a movie filled with special effects. It feels like a world where every action has real consequences. Box office performance. A Western that almost got lost. For all its innovation, The Quick and the Dead struggled at the box office. When it was released in 1995, Westerns were not popular. Audiences had moved on to high-octane action films, crime dramas, and sci-fi epics. The film grossed around $18 million in the U.S., falling short of its budget. Critics were divided. Asterisk some praised Raimi's bold direction, calling the film a fresh take on the Western. Asterisk others dismissed it as too stylized, too exaggerated, too different from the Westerns they were used to. But over time, the film's reputation grew. As new audiences discovered it, they began to appreciate what made it unique: its fearless visuals, its unconventional storytelling, and its unforgettable characters. A film that refused to be forgotten. The Quick and the Dead may not have been a box office hit, but it became something more: a cult classic, a film that filmmakers study for its technique, a Western that stands out in a sea of sameness. Its legacy is not in its initial reception, but in its impact on the genre. Asterisk it proved that Westerns could be visually daring. Asterisk it showed that female gunslingers could lead a story without being reduced to love interests. Asterisk it redefined how gunfights could be shot, making them feel like events rather than just action scenes. And in the end, just like Ellen riding out of redemption, The Quick and the Dead walked away from its box office disappointment with something far more valuable: legendary status. The cast of The Quick and the Dead was not just a collection of actors, it was a powerhouse of talent, a mix of seasoned veterans and rising stars, each bringing something unique to the film. From Sharon Stone's commanding presence to Gene Hackman's chilling villainy, from Russell Crowe's brooding intensity to Leonardo DiCaprio's raw energy, this was a cast that elevated the film beyond just another Western. But getting this cast together wasn't easy. There were battles fought behind the scenes, actors who nearly didn't make it into the film, and a creative vision that had to be defended at every turn. And when the movie finally hit theaters, audiences and critics alike found themselves divided. Some praising its boldness, others unsure what to make of its stylized, almost operatic approach to the Western genre. Sharon Stone, the driving force, on and off the screen. In the world of The Quick and the Dead, Ellen is the storm that shakes redemption to its core. She walks into town with a quiet determination, a gunslinger with nothing to lose and everything to prove. But in the real world, Sharon Stone was fighting her own battles, not just for her role, but for the entire film. "This wasn't just another job for me," Stone said in an interview. "I wanted to make this movie happen. I wanted to play this role, and I wanted it to be done right." She wasn't just the lead actress, she was also one of the film's producers. That meant she had control over casting, creative decisions, and even budget choices. And when she believed in something, she fought for it. Asterisk she hand-picked Russell Crowe, despite the fact that the studio didn't want him. Asterisk she personally paid for Leonardo DiCaprio's salary, ensuring that he got the role of the kid when the studio refused to fund an unknown young actor. Asterisk she clashed with studio executives over creative choices, defending Sam Raimi's unique directing style when others wanted a more traditional approach. And when it came time to perform, She delivered. Stone's portrayal of Ellen is raw, intense, and unlike anything seen in westerns before. She is not a woman trying to prove herself in a man's world. She is a force of nature, standing shoulder to shoulder with every gunslinger in the film. Critics had mixed reactions to her performance at the time, but in hindsight, it was groundbreaking. A female lead in a western, not as a damsel or a side character, but as the true protagonist, carrying the weight of vengeance and justice on her shoulders. Gene Hackman, the perfect villain, unapologetic and unstoppable. If The Quick and the Dead needed a villain who could command absolute fear, it got the best in the business. Gene Hackman's John Herod is not just a tyrant. He is a force of control, a ruler who does not ask for power but takes it. His presence alone is enough to silence a room. His voice carries the weight of finality. Every word he speaks is a law of its own. He does not fight for survival. He fights because he knows he cannot lose. Hackman was no stranger to westerns, having played villains before, but his performance as Herod stands apart. It is not just his cruelty or his dominance. It is the way he wears his power like armor, so confident in his own legend that he believes himself untouchable. And yet, behind the scenes, Hackman was one of the most relaxed and easygoing members of the cast. "I don't think Gene ever stressed about a role," Sam Raimi recalled in an interview. "He walked onto the set, and you just knew, this guy is Herod. No rehearsals needed. No second takes. He just owned the role from day one." Unlike the younger actors who spent hours training with their guns, Hackman refused. "I've done enough westerns," he reportedly said. "I know how to shoot a gun." And honestly, he wasn't wrong. Russell Crowe, the reluctant gunslinger who almost didn't make it. Before Gladiator, before A Beautiful Mind, before he became an Oscar-winning powerhouse, Russell Crowe was just an Australian actor trying to break into Hollywood. And if it wasn't for Sharon Stone, he might never have gotten the role of Court. The studio didn't want him. He wasn't a big name yet. But Stone saw something in him. "I knew he had something special," Stone later said. "I told them, I don't care what you think, I want this guy in my movie." And she fought for him. Court is one of the most complex characters in the film, a preacher who has tried to leave violence behind, but who is forced to pick up a gun once more. Crowe played him with a quiet intensity, a man at war with himself, a man who has seen too much death but knows he must kill again. For Crowe, this was his first taste of a major Hollywood production. And after The Quick and the Dead, his career would never be the same. Leonardo DiCaprio, the kid who stole the show. If anyone in the cast had the most to prove, it was Leonardo DiCaprio. At the time, he was still best known for What's Eating Gilbert Grape, an indie film that earned him an Oscar nomination. But he wasn't a star yet. He wasn't a box office draw. And the studio? They didn't want him. Once again, Sharon Stone stepped in. She saw something in him. "I told them, if you don't pay for him, I will." And that's exactly what she did. DiCaprio's performance as the kid is one of the most heartbreaking in the film. He is cocky, arrogant, full of youthful energy. He believes himself invincible, ready to prove himself against the greatest gunslinger in town. And then, he faces Herod. His death scene is one of the most devastating moments in the film. The moment the reality of death hits him, the fear in his eyes, the desperation in his voice, this was not just another role for DiCaprio. This was a performance that cemented him as a rising star. Audience reactions and the film's legacy. When The Quick and the Dead was released in 1995, audiences didn't know what to make of it. Some loved it. Some were confused by it. Some thought it was too stylized, too different from the westerns they were used to. The film didn't break box office records. It barely made back its budget. But over time, it became a cult classic. People started to appreciate Raimi's direction, the exaggerated camera angles, the way every duel felt like an epic showdown. Asterisk, they saw Sharon Stone's Ellen not just as a gunslinger, but as a turning point for women in westerns. Asterisk, they recognized Gene Hackman's Herod as one of the great western villains of all time. And today, the film is more respected than ever. Because The Quick and the Dead wasn't just another western. It was a film that took risks. And in the end, that's what made it legendary. The dust has settled. The streets of redemption are empty once more, the echoes of gunfire fading into memory. But the legend of The Quick and the Dead remains. It lingers in every dramatic camera shot, every tense duel, every glance exchanged between characters who know that in this world, life and death are separated by nothing more than the pull of a trigger. This was never just another western. It was a reinvention of the genre, a bold, stylized, unforgettable take on the timeless themes of power, revenge, justice, and redemption. It dared to do what so many films before it had not. It placed a woman at the center of the story, not as a love interest, not as a side character, but as the force that would reshape the world around her. Sharon Stone's Ellen was not here to prove herself. She was here to finish something that had been started long ago. She did not seek power, nor did she seek fame. She sought justice, but in doing so, she found something even more elusive: freedom. From the very first moment she rode into town, we knew this was not going to be a typical western. The stylized cinematography, the exaggerated shootouts, the extreme close-ups and quick zooms. Sam Raimi brought his unmistakable visual energy to the genre, transforming gunfights into theatrical, operatic duels that felt larger than life. Every shot mattered. Every duel was more than just a contest. It was a confrontation of fate, a test of survival, a battle between past and present. And at the center of it all stood John Herod, a villain who did not just rule with fear but with absolute, undeniable control. Gene Hackman's portrayal of Herod gave us a villain who was not just powerful but terrifying in his quiet, effortless dominance. Herod was not just a gunslinger. He was a king who believed himself untouchable. Until he wasn't. Until the past came knocking in the form of a woman he did not even remember, a woman who had spent years haunted by his actions. Ellen was not the only one seeking redemption. Court, the reluctant preacher, carried the weight of his past, forced to face the truth that no matter how hard he tried to leave violence behind, it always found him. The kid, full of fire and arrogance, wanted nothing more than to be seen, to be acknowledged, to carve his name into history. And Herod, the ruler of redemption, believed he had already won. Until the very end, he believed he would always win. But redemption does not belong to tyrants. And when Ellen finally faced Herod, the town itself rebelled. The very foundations of his rule collapsed, his empire reduced to smoke and fire. And then, with a single shot, his reign ended. But what made The Quick and the Dead truly unforgettable was not just its explosive ending, it was what happened after. Ellen did not stay. She did not claim redemption as her own. She did not become its new ruler. Because she never wanted power. She simply wanted to walk away, free, and in that final moment, as she disappears into the horizon, we realize that this was never a story about a hero saving a town. It was a story about breaking free from the past. A film that refused to be forgotten. When The Quick and the Dead first hit theaters, it wasn't met with instant success. The Western genre was struggling at the time, and the film's highly stylized action, unconventional cinematography, and comic book-like energy confused audiences who expected something more traditional. But over time, it found its audience. The things that made it different, the extreme camera angles, the theatrical shootouts, the over-the-top action, became the very things that made it iconic. It gave us one of the most unique Western villains in John Herod. It introduced Leonardo DiCaprio in a heartbreaking role that showcased his early brilliance. It proved that Russell Crowe could hold his own in Hollywood, paving the way for his future as a leading man. And most importantly, it gave us a female gunslinger who wasn't there to be saved, wasn't there to fall in love. She was there to finish what she started. And that's why The Quick and the Dead endures. Because some films are made to follow the rules. And others, like this one, are made to break them. Why this film still matters today. Looking back, The Quick and the Dead was ahead of its time. It challenged the conventions of westerns, paving the way for more female-led action films and proving that the genre could evolve beyond the tropes that had defined it for decades. Asterisk, it redefined how gunfights could be filmed, turning every duel into a visual spectacle. Asterisk, it blurred the lines between action and art, blending bold direction with classic Western storytelling. Asterisk, it took risks, refusing to be predictable, refusing to conform to what audiences expected from a Western. And that's why, decades later, it is still being talked about, still being studied, still being appreciated in ways that few films of its time were. Because it wasn't just about fast draws and dusty streets. It was about vengeance, power, survival, and ultimately, freedom. And it was about telling a Western story in a way that had never been done before. Final thoughts. If you've watched The Quick and the Dead, you know that it's not just about the action. It's about the characters, the themes, and the way the film dares to be different. If you haven't seen it yet, now is the perfect time. This is a film that deserves to be experienced, to be appreciated for the bold risks it took and the incredible performances that brought it to life. And if you love movie breakdowns, in-depth analyses, and discussions about the greatest films ever made, be sure to subscribe for more. We've explored the duels, the characters, the behind-the-scenes struggles, and the legacy of The Quick and the Dead, but there are so many more incredible films out there, waiting to be discussed. So hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let us know, what's your favorite moment from The Quick and the Dead? Because in the world of movies, every story deserves to be told. And this was one hell of a story. Expanding upon the conclusion, let's delve even deeper into the impact, legacy, and cinematic influence of The Quick and the Dead, giving it the full recognition it deserves. A Western that redefined the genre. When The Quick and the Dead was first released, it did not receive the warm welcome it deserved. The film was ambitious, highly stylized, and unapologetically different from the traditional westerns that audiences were used to. It took risks, blending old-school gunslinger tropes with modern, hyper-stylized cinematography that felt closer to a graphic novel than a classic John Wayne film. At the time, the Western genre was in decline. The golden age of Westerns had long passed, and audiences had moved on to more contemporary action films, crime thrillers, and science fiction blockbusters. The 1990s saw only a few successful Westerns, such as Unforgiven, 1992, and Tombstone, 1993, and even those stuck closely to the gritty realism that seemed to define the genre's final days. And then The Quick and the Dead arrived. It didn't just want to revive the Western, it wanted to reinvent it. The film was never meant to be a slow, methodical cowboy drama. It was a spectacle, a cinematic showdown that treated every duel as if it were the final battle of an epic war. Sam Raimi wasn't interested in making a film that looked like the westerns of the past. He wanted to bring his signature kinetic energy to the genre, and that's exactly what he did. But for many audiences in 1995, this style was too different, too extreme. Some weren't sure whether the film was meant to be serious or satirical. Was it a tribute to classic westerns or a hyper-stylized parody of them? Looking back, it's clear that The Quick and the Dead was not just a Western, it was an evolution of the genre. And that evolution wasn't fully appreciated until years later. Sharon Stone's legacy as Ellen, a gunslinger unlike any other. Western films had always been dominated by male heroes. From Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name to John Wayne's rugged cowboys, the gunslingers of cinema were nearly always men. And when women appeared in westerns, they were often damsels, love interests, or secondary characters whose stories revolved around the men they followed. Ellen was different. She didn't ride into town looking for love. She didn't need anyone to protect her, and she certainly didn't need permission to stand in the center of the street at high noon, revolver in hand. Ellen wasn't just a female lead, she was the protagonist, the driving force of the story. She wasn't trying to prove she could be as tough as a man, she was already tougher than most of them. Sharon Stone's performance as Ellen was understated yet powerful. She didn't rely on long monologues or grand speeches to make her presence known. Her silence, her gaze, the way she carried herself, all of it spoke louder than words. Stone's dedication to the role extended far beyond just acting. She was the reason the film got made, the reason Russell Crowe and Leonardo DiCaprio got their roles, the reason Sam Raimi's unique vision was allowed to thrive. And yet, at the time, her performance didn't get the respect it deserved. Many critics struggled with the idea of a female gunslinger leading a Western, dismissing her performance as too cold or too detached. But what they failed to see was that Ellen's silence was part of what made her so compelling. She wasn't there to charm anyone. She was there to put a bullet in the past and walk away. And that's exactly what she did. The film's growing influence over the years. While The Quick and the Dead wasn't a massive success in 1995, it has since grown into a cult classic, a film that modern directors and cinephiles have come to admire for its fearless approach to storytelling and cinematography. Quentin Tarantino, known for his love of westerns and stylized action, has credited the film as one of the westerns that helped reshape the genre. Its influence can be seen in later westerns that embrace stylized action, larger-than-life characters, and modern cinematic techniques while still honoring the genre's traditions. Films like Django Unchained, 2012, Tarantino's revenge-driven western, with bold cinematography and exaggerated shootouts, owes much to The Quick and the Dead. The Hateful Eight, 2015. Another Tarantino western that plays with time, space, and character motivations in a way that echoes the tension and stakes of Raimi's film. The Harder They Fall, 2021. A modern take on the western, featuring a diverse cast and stylish action sequences that feel very much in line with The Quick and the Dead's operatic approach to gunfights. Over time, audiences and critics began to realize what the film had accomplished. And today, it stands as one of the most unique, visually striking, and influential westerns of its time, a film that took risks and refused to be forgotten. Looking back, it's clear that The Quick and the Dead was a film that took risks in ways that few other westerns ever had. It gave us a female lead who wasn't defined by romance or vulnerability. It introduced rising stars like Leonardo DiCaprio and Russell Crowe before they became household names. It let Sam Raimi take his dynamic, fast-paced filmmaking style and inject it into a genre that had always been known for its slow, deliberate storytelling. And perhaps most importantly, it wasn't afraid to be different. Many films try to fit into a genre. They follow the rules, they play it safe, they give audiences what they expect. But The Quick and the Dead? It broke the rules. It reinvented the genre. It did what it wanted to do. And for that reason, it is still being talked about, studied, and appreciated nearly 3 decades later. Final thoughts. The western that stood the test of time. If you've never seen The Quick and the Dead, now is the time. It's more than just a western. It's an experience, a film that blends the old with the new, that challenges expectations and delivers something truly unforgettable. And if you have seen it, watch it again. Because every time you revisit it, you notice something new. The way the camera lingers before a duel, the way Ellen's silence speaks volumes, the way Herod's power crumbles beneath his own arrogance. It is a film that grows with time, one that becomes richer the more you study it. And if you love films like this, movies that push boundaries, that take risks, that leave an impact long after the credits roll, then make sure to subscribe. There are so many more films like The Quick and the Dead that deserve to be explored, analyzed, and appreciated.